Welcome back, everybody, to Maniacal Music Musings. I'm your host, Jeremy, as always, and as you know, many a foreigner's God. Come on now. All the weaker wolves would rather look for someone new than to be alone. Well, you know me. I prefer to stand on the red horizon and enjoy the spoils of the horde. Stepping on the weaker ones. Goddamn, you should. No one should be a weak wolf. Come on. It's the point of the word wolf. I'll get into that later. My co-host, however, is a nomadic skeptic that his hostages call the negative one. You'll find him in the woods somewhere, as always, sedated with Jackie and Wilson, enjoying his lower purpose in life. He's a savior of none who snorts the ashes of all. He says always, the devil and I needs to take me to church. Chancy motherfucking gripe, everybody.
I
There,
loved that was mastery. That was absolute mastery weaving all of those in there. Well done.
Thank you.
hi.
Oh, I love when the guests like my intro so much that Chancey just gets interrupted by
Yeah,
bam. I
sorry.
fucking love it. And I no
I was
apologies needed.
no, by all means, no. I was going to say, other than my stereotypical introduction, I was going to actually say there is a famous phrase or saying that says there's a fine line between genius and insanity. I just so happen to have snorted it.
Yes, and yeah, you could say some. You could say I'm something of a poet myself, but with that, folks, let me introduce our guest for this week, Ronica Merrill, screenwriter and poet herself. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me on, you guys. It's gonna be fun.
Uh,
I'm looking forward to this.
The
it's
pleasure
gonna
is
be
all
fun.
ours.
Well, we always try to make it fun. It's up to the guests if they want to have fun or not. But welcome. And as always, we start this off just by asking, what made you love music?
I've been around music all my life. My mom is a true to the bone hippie. So she ran off in the 80s to live in like a essentially what amounted to a hippie commune on a mountain in India. So I was born to the sound of like didgeridoos and drums and guitars in a slate hut on a mountain somewhere. Um in the middle of a smoke circle probably. Um so that's how I was raised, that's how I was born. I was born into a world of like music. And then I think I've always just, I mean, the way she raised me was, well, the way she raised me was horrendous, but the one good thing that she had going was she had a really good taste in music. So kind of the first thing I would have just absolutely fallen in love with Western music. So Indian music I've always been very close to. Was Queen, and she'd brought along like two cassette tapes um from from Austria that she always listened to, which was It's a Kind of Magic, and I don't remember what album the other one was. Um,
It's kind of
and
magic. It's a damn good album.
it's a good album. It's
Hmm.
good. It's good. And to have like that was the only Western music I was exposed to when I was very, very small. So it's a good choice for, if that's the only thing you're gonna be hearing, good one.
Yeah.
Um, and then on the Indian side, because my dad's Indian and my mom's Austrian. So on the Indian side, I grew up with very traditional kind of dance music. So I was classically trained in a dance form called Kathak, which is a temple dance. It's like if you want to be very crude about it, it's like the Indian version of ballet. Um, so I had these kind of influences on both sides of my family, which was really is an interesting mix. Um, so yeah, so I've and then I grew up around musicians. The first boy I ever dated was a musician because of course you can't resist musicians. It's not possible. And I was in a band when I was in my teenage years. I've always performed, I've always sang, I've always danced. Um, so one of the songs tonight actually that I picked was the only song I've ever performed in Ireland. So it's yeah, I've always been around music and I've always been I don't want to call myself a musician because I'm not. I'm not a musician. I don't, if you hand me a guitar, I will fail miserably. Um, but I've always sang and I've always kind of surrounded myself with musicians. So I guess that's the answer.
Hmm. Well, I will say Indian music is in its own right, right? It can be amazing.
Yeah,
Nothing like a good sitar. Nothing like a good sitar. Really isn't.
yeah,
But and that's yeah. I actually just discovered a band that uses that in one of their songs, an American
yeah,
band, and I'm like, ooh, they're coming to the show soon. They're coming to the show soon. But
yeah.
well, speaking of after hearing all that, I am dying to fucking know what made you want to bring the album you brought.
Um, it's really important. This is actually Hosier is one of the most important artists for me, I think, in general. He's so it's always funny. I always say that I'm on parallel lines with him because he brought his first album out literally the month that I had my first child. So I was like, okay. And then he brought his second album out literally like 2 months before I had my second child. So we've always been pregnant at the same time, him and me. It was like he's pregnant with an album and I'm pregnant with a baby. And then he was releasing his third album and I was like looking at my belly going, please no, please God no. Um so I just did not. He let him do music. I'm not having more babies. Like, please don't. Um, but he's a really important as a as somebody for whom poetry uh is important. I think poetry has always been, and his lyrics are just so poetic and so um intricate. So when yeah, I think that's why I chose it. And his first album is his most, I think, to this day, his most visceral. Um, just because the teenage angst and the kind of remnants of um pure unadulterated. I want to write this down because I'm feeling so intensively about these things. Um, and the kind of the voice of my generation. Um, that's why I think I picked that album because it is, to me, it speaks very much with exactly the type of voice that I think my own voice is. So it feels very familiar and it feels very much like home.
Well, I guess yeah, I guess I'll go first this week. You see, the funny thing is, if someone would have asked me over 2 weeks ago, "Hey, who sings that song Take Me to Church?" I would have been like, "I have no fucking clue. Why are you asking me?" Because
Yeah,
this is not my typical genre of music, I'll say.
yeah,
I may be wrong about that. There may be some artists that are similar that I listen to that I don't really think of that way, but I listened to this album actually last out of these three because even though I only do one of these albums, obviously, I listened to this one last just because it happened to go that way. And because I'm really happy I listened to the other one with headphones on. But this one, I'm not gonna. I honestly can't say I. There are definitely some songs in I definitely vibed with and liked.
yeah,
The lyric, a lot. His lyrics are interesting. It's.
yeah,
I feel like I'd have to really study his lyrics to try to get what he means behind every song, because he
yeah,
has definitely some hidden shit in there that you can't just like listen to once and get like, oh, he's talking about hookers. No, no, you can't do that
yeah,
with this shit. Like it's I mean, I enjoyed a lot of it. I mean, and if anyone just went and told me like, "Hey, go listen to the album that has Take Me to Church on," I would have been like, Why? No, I'm not
Yeah.
doing that. But that's why I also created the shows, because I like to be forced to listen to albums I would never listen to
Yeah.
regardless.
Exactly.
So, and it happens a lot, especially with some assholes. But yeah, I mean, I honestly can't. I honestly could say I would listen to other albums he's done, because I know he has a lot of other albums now. But I honestly would say I would listen to. But I gotta ask: is he technically Christian rock or no? I couldn't really tell.
No, no, no. Oh God, no. I think
Okay,
he'd be very upset with you if you said that.
I didn't
He
think he was fully, but I'm like
no,
the
and
elements of some of it was just like I don't.
yeah, I'm not even a huge fan of that song. Like that, obviously that song is on this album, and it's like that. You know, it's his flagship song still. Um, but like that, if that song wasn't on this album, I would have still picked it. It's not my favorite, and it's very much a political protest song. It's very much a kind of a dismantling of the kind of culture he grew up with, being, you know, an Irishman, and having to grow up with a system of quite severe oppression in this country, in Ireland. So it's very political, and very kind of anti.
Okay,
So yeah,
that's why I vibe with it. Okay, that makes
yeah,
sense because
yeah,
I
yeah,
fucking I hate organized religion with a passion. So
yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
but okay, that makes sense. Then I mean, it was one of those things. So I'm like, okay, ICP is Christian rap technically, but no one would ever call it that unless they knew. So I'm like, is he Christian rock? I'm trying to think about I'm literally singing like pick up a line, waiting to pick up my daughter today, and I'm like listening to it. I'm like trying to debate it in my head while I'm waiting. And I'm just like, I gotta ask this tonight because I don't fucking know.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
But
it feels like on the surface maybe, but like on the surface, but then you actually listen to the lyrics and you realize that yeah, it's quite the protest song, and he's been very political um throughout his career. So yeah.
I mean, it makes sense. I mean, I think if he was Christian rock, the song probably would have been called "I'm Going to Church, Not Taking You to
Yeah,
Church."
yeah. Or like yeah,
but,
it's yeah, yeah.
and I mean, I'll get into more what I like about him. I get to like my top five for his album. But Chancy, what did you think of Hosier?
So I have to be very strategic and careful, and it's not for the reason it's not for the reason you think, Veronica. It's first of all, Jeremy, congratulations.
Oh, thank you, sir. Yeah, I was telling her before you came on, so she knows. But
And um, so I didn't know, or I didn't remember this album per se until I was listening to it, and um, this album was the last album that my ex-fiance introduced to me, and I wasn't ready for it, to say the least, and I enjoyed it listening to it with her the first time, but there was a whole lot of synchronicity going on, especially like over the course of the whole hey, this is the show, and then the events over the weekend coincided with her birthday, actually, exactly. um and then this album, it just kind of locked fit like a gear, like a cog in a wheel, and I really I enjoyed it, um especially the lyrics, and I actually remembered having the conversation with her about the underlying uh metaphors and stuff that's there, like we were just talking about "Take Me to Church," uh, and it just being more of like the old, like what we would say in the adage of over here, we would be talking about being taken to the woodshed.
Yeah.
Take me to church, take me to task,
Yeah.
um, lay it on me, let me have it, and I thought that stuff like that was always interesting to me and intriguing as well. But my usual thing that I do, and I've explained this a million times on the show, is like when I do the first listen through, I play video games so I can have a complete detachment to just experience the music as it comes.
Yeah.
And I was in the middle of an activity on this game that I play, and a specific song that was on the list and the album, obviously, uh, that she had particularly pointed out came on, and it just hit me like a Mack truck.
Oh
But
my
I'm definitely glad that it was brought,
That's crazy. What a coincidence.
right?
Oh, there are no coincidences in this
Yeah,
life. It's
that
all
doesn't feel like, yeah, that,
synchronicity happens for reasons.
yeah, that's a, oh my goodness. Um, that's quite emotional. That's quite heavy.
Yeah,
I mean, and the fact that it all happened without any warning or any way of anybody knowing anything. Because for all the listeners out there, I don't know if I've ever actually said this on a show, but I am the one who talks to all the guests. Chancey doesn't talk to guests until the show, actually. So unless it's someone we both know already, but I mean,
right.
Chancey doesn't talk to most guests before a show, so there's no way anything could have been planned or known before this.
Yeah, that's
I
crazy.
I go in cold because if I don't, then I'll spend the entire time between having like first contact with the guest until the actual episode taping, just completely overthinking everything, and then it would just be a total bumble of me trying to find words that I had and stringing together like really clever phrases that are all in the wrong order, and it would just be a grand catastrophe.
But oh my God, that's insane.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
insane. Yeah, I mean, that's it though. Music is so deeply connected to like our memory making kind of neural networks, so that music can be such a powerful kind of um memory creator. So when we're re-exposed to something, it can be quite painful. It can be quite heavy. So wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
music could definitely make some good memories and some bad memories. It all depends
Yeah.
on what the situation is
There's a
around that
bunch
song.
of
But
everything. Yeah, 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 exactly. And it
so
makes it all stronger. So wow, that's
and
crazy.
Chancy, funny you mentioned the woodshed. I mean, that's my favorite strip club in New York. But I'm joking. I'm I'm joking, folks. That actually is a great name for a strip club, though, and I might have to do that sometime in the future and start that. But that's a
we
great name for a strip
actually
club.
we have one in Iowa called the Lumberyard.
Eh, I like woodshed better, but that's my opinion.
Eh?
Well, Ronica, what are your top 5 songs off the album you brought?
From the album I brought, my absolute number one song of all time is Cherry Wine.
Really?
Yes, and let me give you the reason. Um, the reason is that it's about domestic violence. And he actually, when he brought the single out, he donated all the proceeds from it to the Women's Aid of Ireland. Um, and he did that in I want to say 2015, 2016. And in 2019, I had to grab my kids and run out of the house because my ex was becoming dangerous. So the proceeds from that song put a roof over my head.
Wow.
Um, so that's why it's a pretty good song in my head. It's a pretty good song. Um,
Good, good
and
reasoning, and I did not make that connection. I will say I did not make that connection by listening to the song once. I did not make that connection, but
Yeah, so it and it again lyrically it's quite strong in that it really does describe what it feels like to be in a situation where your partner is abusing you, um and it tastes delicious but it makes you drunk, very much like cherry wine would. And that's also the song that I've performed the most over the last few years. I had a show called I Love You, Dave Taylor, which was a show that we put on all over the country. Um, and I sang that song in that show. Um, and so that's, it has such a strong visceral kind of connection for me, just on a very, very, very personal and very painful level. Um, the next one is Foreigner's God, which is again a very lyrically visceral experience, I think. um in the Woods Somewhere is just because I grew up in the countryside, I grew up in the woods, I grew up living in a forest, with like horses in the forest and everything, and the experience of waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning and hearing something that you should not have heard, and then wandering out barefoot into the woods to try and find out what's going on. That's an actual experience that I've had many times as a kid. So that's quite familiar. Um, Arsonist's Lullaby is powerful. Just because I I also remember the experience of as a teenager sitting in front of a candle, trying to hypnotize myself and trying to kind of escape into the flame and into the that call of the unknown and the call of the danger, is very interesting. And then Jackie and Wilson is probably my last pick, um, for its kind of sense of humor and its kind of sense of defeated defeat the kind of the defeat that you get at the end of a relationship where it's like, yeah, well, I guess this one didn't work out either, but next one. So yeah, those are my top 5 picks from this particular album.
Oh, good reasons for all, definitely. And there are some similarities here. I mean, actually, okay. I will. I mean, like I said, the CD was actually kind of vibed me. I had three honorable mentions even because the CD just vibed with me, which I did not expect. As soon as I looked up the CD to see what the hell it was, and I saw "Take Me to Church" on, I was like, "Oh God!"
Yeah.
Yeah, well, this happened. This has happened before. I classify an album by one fucking song, and then I go listen to it. And I'm like, okay, I was wrong. I can admit it. I'm man enough. But my first honorable mention was Jackie and Wilson because I thought it was the story behind it was good. I think the
Yeah.
story I at least got the story I got out of it was good. I feel like I need to go listen to all these again to really get the real stories out of them, like I said. But still, my second honorable mention was "It Will Come Back" because
Mm,
everything comes back to you. Everything comes back to you in this life. Karma exists. So I like that song. It really vibed. And my last honorable mention was "In the Woods Somewhere" because yeah, it's as much as I'm not a nature person, as much as I hate the fucking woods. Yeah, I don't know. Somehow I vibe with songs about woods, and even though I hate the fucking woods, I don't get it. My mind works weird. But my number 5 was "Sedated"
yeah.
because I've talked to a lot of victims of religious abuse in my other show, and "Sedated" definitely had some topics in it that I could kind of vibe with based on talking to those people. So yeah, and my number 4, of course. Well, actually, I'm surprised it wasn't higher, but my number 4 was "Take Me to Church"
Mm,
because it's always been a haunting song to me. It's always been like, I mean, I always thought it was more about like actual church than anything else, but I never got the political part of it. But I don't know why, but it's his voice has always been like haunting in that song.
yeah.
And my number 3, funny enough, was "Foreigner's God" because when I first saw the title, I'm like, is he actually talking about the band Foreigner? Because they are fucking gods, they're awesome. But and then as I'm listening to it, I'm like, you know what? I'm like, I can dig this song because I mean the message I got from it is like when you start praying to a foreigner's god, like when something happens, I'll be like, help me, Odin, help me. Like that's the way I think of it. Like,
It's
or
a
like,
sign of pure desperation.
or I'll be like, or even sometimes like jokingly, I'll be like, when something good happens, I'll be like, praise Allah, like just to fucking put people out. But so I mean, I enjoyed that song, and it built the way it built from the beginning to the end. Really like stuck
Yeah.
with me.
Yeah.
And my number two was To Be Alone, because
Mm.
I was a loner for most of my fucking life before I found my now wife. So I was always a loner, and to be alone can sometimes be the best thing in your fucking life. It can be what you need.
Yeah.
So I got that 100%. And my number one, I did not see being number one. I honestly had taken me to church for number one until this one came up. Well, actually, okay, until like the last few came up and got pushed down. But it's Someone New,
Mm.
because that was me all through high school, all through college, and all through my
Right?
20s. Is I love Someone New every fucking week.
Yeah.
And I mean, that love was not reciprocated or even communicated a lot of times, but I fucking love Someone New every fucking week. So it was just, it's just the way my mind worked. And that song hit the fuck home. I was like, oh my God, this song's about me.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ,
Right.
what the
That's
hell's
why
going on here?
it is the quintessential teenage experience. You could tell that he wrote it as an angsty teenager. Like you can tell that
Yeah.
he was like probably about 19 when he wrote it. And it's like, yeah,
Um,
exactly.
I carried that I carried that teenage experience and angst into my fucking 30s, but yeah, it is what it is. But that song just hit home to me. I don't fucking know what it is. I really don't. Like it
Yeah.
just hit home, and I was like, "Holy fuck, this song's about me, dude." Did you know me? Like I honestly thought he was American until he said he was Irish, so I was like, okay, he definitely doesn't know me then. But still, it's yeah. So I mean, overall, pretty damn good CD. I actually have added some of them to my Spotify like list. Will I ever go back to the whole CD? Most likely not. I'm not gonna lie. I don't go back to a lot. I
Yeah.
rarely listen to an album in full unless it's for the show. So, but there are a good 5 or 6 of these I add to my freaking like list. So I will hear him again, whether I want to or not. But I will hear him again. But Chancy, what were your top 5?
So, uh, I actually, I don't have a list. I don't have a numeric list. But I do remember the 6 songs that she enjoyed the most. Number 6 was Take Me to Church. Number 5 was In the Woods Somewhere. Number 4 was Like Real People Do. Number 3 was Someone New. Number 2 was The Angel of Small Death and the Codeine Scene. And number 1 was Cherry Wine.
Oh shit! There you go. And the Angel of Death and the Codeine Scene song. Just on the title, I thought I was gonna like it a lot more, and then I heard it, and I'm
No, no,
like,
no, 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 no. Small Death.
Small Death. Yeah.
Yeah. So that it's one of those kind of like if you know, you know, and I can tell that you don't.
Obviously not because the song didn't really vibe me, and based on the title, I thought it was gonna be a song I would really vibe with, but it didn't vibe me. I was kind of expecting it to be like a almost System of a Down type song, but
It's
or
funny though. It's funny though. Like I very much so think that if you knew, then you would probably be a lot more into it than you ended up being. Do you know what they refer to as the little death, Jeremy?
isn't a little. I want to say an orgasm. I could be wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a bingo.
Yay! I know things.
But
But
yeah,
yeah,
no, but yeah, so yeah, yeah.
hey, at least I knew what
And
the phrase meant. But
and and now you know.
and knowledge is half the battle. But
Mm.
yeah, uh, I don't know. Hoser surprised me. He surprised me. I wasn't expecting it. I was dragging listening to this album for 2 weeks, and then I did, and it completely changed my mind on it. So hats off to you, Monica, because
Yeah.
it's not often guests get me to change my mind on things. Like
Yeah.
usually, if I expect something to be like something I'm not gonna like, it's usually I'm pretty damn usually right on with it. But like
Good.
some of the albums, like some of the albums Chancy picks, but where I literally dread listening to it, and then I listen to it, and I'm like, oh fuck you, motherfucker. But uh, well, folks, I guess it's time. We'll go with my album next, I guess, since it's the more, I guess I'll say the more known album out of the two albums remaining, or at least I'm sure it is to most people. Because why did I pick? Oh yeah, okay. Well, because I met Veronica's from a pod match, which you guys have heard me talk about in the show before, and after reading her profile and like talking to her, she wanted to pick her album because it was something that meant something to her. So I was like, all right, I'm going to pick something that means something to me because I can't find any similar artists to Hozier that I really listen to. So I'm like, I had a couple other albums in mind, but I was just like, no, I'm gonna go with this one because I wanted to bring this album on for a long, long fucking time. And we actually just had one of the songs off this album in our one of our bracket specials we did in the last month or two. I think it was in our not the serial killer one. Oh, in our top metal songs about death. One of the songs from this was in that album or in that bracket. So I was like, all right, you know what? It's time to bring this album finally because as many people in the show know, one of my favorite bands of all time is Slipknot, and this, in my opinion, Point Five, the Gray Chapter album, it to me is one of their best albums all the way through. A lot of their albums, I can't listen to the whole album and actually enjoy it. I can listen to a lot of the songs in the album and enjoy it, but I can't listen to the whole album and just like sit there through the whole thing. This album, I've listened to start to finish more times than I can fucking count, probably on the hands and toes of everybody in my town. So it's just, and I live in a big fucking town. It's, I think this album came out, and I want to say 2014, 13, around there somewhere. And I was still a love-stricken, heartbroken 20-something-year-old at that point. And this album hit the fuck home me with all the depression and loneliness I had at that time. This album hit the fuck home. So I love this fucking album. It hits on a lot of different emotions I've had at that time, and it doesn't hit as hard nowadays as it did then, but it still fucking hits.
Mm.
So, and I can still fucking headbang to some of these songs harder than ever, and hard enough to break my fucking neck almost. So, swear to God, if I could have put headphones, if my wife actually let me put headphones to her stomach when she was pregnant, I would have been playing some of this album. But gotta raise those damn kids right. But so yeah, I mean that's why I wanted to bring this album because it had a lot of emotional depth to me, and which I'll get to with the songs as well. But it struck home me for many years, and actually until I met my wife basically. But and I think it's one of Slipknot's best fucking albums ever because it was I don't know his name. I forgive me all my Iowan listeners. I don't know his name, but it was right after one of their
Paul,
band members died. Go,
Paul,
go.
Paul
Well,
Gray.
I knew the Gray was in the name. I just didn't know what the
Mm.
fuck his first name was. But
You know, it's just,
yeah,
it's just, you know, it's almost like it's on the tip of your tongue, almost like you read it somewhere.
you think. But I mean, I literally saw Slipknot in 2019 live right before COVID. So I saw them 2019 live after they put out their last CD. I think, no, 2 CDs ago, but after they put out the last CD they put out before COVID. But I saw them live after that, and some of the songs off this album they performed are so fucking good live. Oh my god! And they still put on a hell of a show, after Paul died. So, but you could definitely tell he's missed. But Ronica, what did you think of Slipknot?
It's a genre I never ever ever listened to. I the last time I listened to Slipknot was at a festival in 2008, on the Hungarian border, and I was sitting with I was sitting with a 10-liter bucket and an actual, like just a bucket, like a paint bucket of sangria between my legs.
Sounds fun.
Yes, sipping sangria through like the longest straws you've ever seen. Um, just kind of holding this bucket between my legs. Um, and that was the last time I listened to Slipknot because they were on stage, they were live. So I was sitting in all the way in the back, just kind of chilling. As the sun was going down over the Hungarian grasslands. Um, and I was I want to say 16 or 17 at the time. And it was pretty fun. Like it was good. So that was the last time I actively kind of was exposed to Slipknot. Which is that's a good way to be exposed to Slipknot. Like let's not kid ourselves. Sitting on the Hungarian grasslands, drinking bucket loads of sangria. That's the
I
way to do it.
I would say that's a good. I would say that's a good time to be exposed to any music. But
Yeah, exactly. That's how you should listen to any music. Um, I always have a bucket of sangria with you. I liked this album. I think I listened to it start to finish, which was a challenge. I'll have to say it was a challenge because it's like kind of like you were saying, it's absolutely not my genre. I would not listen to any kind of metal at all in my real life. Um the one song that actually kind of jumped out to me that I really recognized was Sarcastrophe. I actually like I recognized that and I was like, oh, I've heard this before. I've definitely heard this before. Um, so I would have been exposed to it, presumably, at some point somewhere. And the song that really kind of that I liked the most lyrically, was the Negative one.
mhm.
Um, I just thought it was like it starts off so strong, and then you're like you're right in. Um, so it was definitely an interesting experience listening to the whole album. Um, and just kind of allowing myself to be exposed to the genre and appreciate what a good example of the genre it is. Um, there's you underestimate just how much melody there is in metal music. So yeah, it was a good example. And I really like genuinely deeply appreciated it um as a kind of as an example of the genre.
I mean, I will say it's at least it's metal. You can understand most of the words they say, unlike some other
Yeah,
metals. But it's and that's one of the reasons I always love Slipknot because they can go hard and still you can understand pretty much
yeah,
most of the words they say. And
yeah.
2008 was a good year to see them fucking live because that's when All Hope Is Gone came out, and that was the album that actually got me really into Slipknot. Was All Hope Is
That would
Gone.
have been
So
probably the tour that they were on.
probably yeah,
Yeah.
because that was a really good fucking album too. But well, Chancy, as our native Iowan, what did you think of Slipknot?
um, well, I mean, that's kind of a loaded question because you're asking me about the
No.
band and not this album. So I mean, I like Slipknot. So that's I'm glad you asked, Jeremy. Next question.
You dick.
Oh,
You
I'm
know what I mean.
sorry. Oh, right. Yes, the album, the one about the name you can't remember. Um, I'm sorry. I'm done. Uh,
You better be.
it's kind of one of the. That was only a half truth. Um, so I don't know. For me, when I saw Slipknot was back in like 2001 on the Iowa tour. Uh, like that was their second studio album, which
Hmm.
also happened to coincide with my first concert. So like they were still just a ball of fury coming out of the kitchen. But honestly, for me, that early stuff is what grabbed me, and then for a while there in the middle, it kind of fell off, and then with when Paul died and all the like all of a sudden things just started happening, and I've always kind of said it, but it was kind of different with this because like the commonality is always somebody gets famous and then that thing that rug that like edge that they had just kind of dulls out, like they're not hungry and starving anymore, so they don't quite have it. And then it's like all of a sudden a whole bunch of bad shit happened, and then that soft edge kind of scraped up against a rock and got sharp enough to cut you. And I mean, this one I thought was a pretty good one. Like I said, out of like all the stuff that they do, there's a lot of hits and a lot of misses, and this one happened to land on a hit. So you sunk my battleship, you fucker.
Sunk it, I did, and yeah. I mean, I don't know. I had to work hard not to pull a Jeremy and bring this whole fucking album when I want to do my top five because I really could have, but I was like, no. I mean, there are some songs in this that I can skip over if they come up on random, so I will not pull a Jeremy. I will be a little pickier. Still at 4 honorable mentions, but I didn't pull a Jeremy, so I seceded. But my first album, actually, where the fuck are my manners? Actually, I know what am I doing.
No,
Yeah,
I mean
no,
technically, no, technically you're still correct. So
yeah,
what are you
yeah.
doing?
My first honorable
Yeah.
mention is I'm pulling a Chancy here because my first honorable mention is the intro track XIX or better known as 14, but it's a great way to open an album. It really is. They actually, I didn't put the other one on, but they have a couple like they have an interlude in this album as well that is really well done. But XIX is just I love it musically and it opens the album perfectly. My number 8 was Nomadic because I don't know why, but any song about being a nomad I usually like, whether it's this or Metallica's Wherever I May Roam. So I don't know, nomad songs kind of hit me. My number 7, and I can't believe it's not higher, but in this album I can see why. My number 7 was Skeptic because I love the fucking. Cause I'm pretty sure they're singing about Paul in this one, like especially because that chorus line, "The world will never see a crazy motherfucker like you." I kind of hope someone says that at my funeral. I kind of do. I've always said like I hope like someone actually says that at my funeral. It's true, and it's probably damn well true that they'll never see a crazy motherfucker like me again. But when my number 6 or last time I mentioned was Kill Pop because as much as I would love to kill all pop music, I do fucking love this song. I really do. And my number 5 one, my number 5, I gotta say, I freaking love because I have a love for conspiracy theories and cults that's my paranormal side coming out. And the one that kills the least kind of reminds me of, I swear to God, it's a song about Charles Manson because he technically didn't kill a single fucking person as far as everybody knows. But the one that kills the least still kills us all
Yeah.
because you cannot kill anybody and still influence other people to do bad things. So, and my number 4 was Lech, just mainly because of the opener. I love how they open it just by screaming, "I know why Judas wept, motherfucker!" Like, and then they fucking go in that huge drum solo. Like, I fucking love that opener, and the whole song is amazing. But that opener is just fucking. First time I heard that, I was like, "Oh!" I'm like, "That's a musicgasm right there. That's a musicgasm." And my number 3 is the negative one because the negative one is an amazing song, and it makes me think about my mother. But
Yeah.
100% makes me think about my mother. But I love the chorus in it, and I mean, just such the guitar in it is fucking incredible. Everything about it's amazing. Then my number 2, I've seen this one live, and it is such a good song to see live, and such a good song at the same time. It's fucking Custer. Just because I love the fucking chorus, the whole cut me up, fuck me up. Like it's just fucking amazing. And then that fucking guitar comes in, it's like fucking such a good song. I fucking love that song. Like when you're really having a bad day, if you put that song on, headbang the fuck to it, like it really brings you out of that fucking bad mood. Like it just lets that anger fucking release. And then my number 1 I yeah, it's the song I relate to the most. The Devil and I, because I mean, we've all done bad things in our life, and sometimes embracing that darkness in you is, I guess, kind of therapy. So, The Devil and I is a fucking very. It hits me hard. It used to hit me a lot harder, but it still hits me hard.
Mm.
I don't know. Slipknot just fucking they're unlike you, Chancy. Their earlier stuff, some of it was just I didn't get some of their earlier stuff. I mean, I love a lot of their earlier stuff. Don't get me wrong. Seeing, hearing them fucking sing, I pushed my fingers into my eyes, fucking live, was one of the best moments of my life. Like literally, like it was funny as fuck. 'Cause I was at a party at my cousin's house with my now wife, then girlfriend, and one of the family friends was like, "Yeah, my 17-year-old son wants me. I'm taking him to see Slipknot in August." And he's like, I don't know Slipknot, but he wants to see him, so I'm gonna go take him. And me and my cousins look at each other because he's the one who got me into Slipknot. We just look at each other and we're just like, I pushed my fingers into my. And he's like, you guys know Slipknot? Like, fuck yes, we do. We'll go. We're like, how much are tickets? Like $90 each. He's like, fuck yeah, we'll go. And then like my now wife ended up going with me because my cousin's girlfriend couldn't go at the time, so she ended up coming with me to like her first real concert ever. So it was fucking amazing. Like, yeah, and she was fucking 28 at that point, so that was like her first real concert. So I was happy to finally be able to give her that.
Mhm.
And I mean, the two bands opening for them were, yeah, but I don't remember what the fuck their names are. But Slipknot itself was fucking incredible. So yeah, this album is just one of my top albums by them. So I had to bring it. I had to finally bring it on the show because it was damn due time. But as the
Yeah.
guest, Veronica, what are your top 5 songs? I'm dying to hear.
So my favorite one was the negative one.
Mm-hmm.
Mainly for I picked all of them again, like because I am very much focused on like the lyrical aspect of everything. Um, and that kind of the lyrics for that one just stood out to me the most. I have them pulled up here just because I wanted to read through them. Um, and it's like there's a line in here that actually jumped out to me while I was listening to it, and then I looked up the lyrics because I was like, "Am I hearing it right?" Because I want to know is that actually what he says. And it's the same drama in a different disguise. I'm bound to walk with a target on my back. At least I'm ready for another attack. Um, and that kind of is like just the feeling of I'm bound to walk with a target on my back. At least I'm ready for another attack. To be always kind of on ready for whatever life throws at you next because you're already so numbed from all the bullshit that you've been through. Um, is like when the next big fucking thing happens, is like, yeah, this may as well happen to me. So that kind of really that song in particular was actually spoke to me with the lyrics, but I had to listen to it again. I was like, okay, hold on, I'm gonna look this up. I'm gonna actually read along and really experience what they're trying to say rather than just listening to the song, but actually listen to what they're trying to say, and what they're trying to say is quite lyrically beautiful. And the chorus is quite lyrically like it's a beautiful piece of poetry, really. Um so that's definitely my favorite was the negative one. That was my favorite song out of
I
the whole album. And my
I
other
will
I
say
actually overlap with you.
I,
Yeah.
I will say when they get to that chorus in the negative one, and like they're saying the negative one over and over again, they get louder and louder. And then it just he unleashes that primal scream. It's just like ooh, goosebumps down the back. Like it's
Right?
because everybody
That's why I
everybody has that negative person in their fucking life, and
exactly.
like it gets to that point that you were like that you have that internal scream like that where you just get sick
Yeah.
of dealing with it, and oh, it just hits home. It hits home.
It is. Like that's exactly it. That's why I felt it was like, okay, this is actually there's something really kind of like I think you used the word primal there.
Yep.
There is something really primal about it. Which the genre is quite primal. It's quite a,
Hmm.
there's a lot of really guttural, uh, instinctual, primal kind of communication going on.
It's pure
Um,
emotion. Pure
yeah,
emotion.
it is. Yeah. My second one was Sarcastrophe.
Mm.
Um,
It's a good
I
fucking
kind of
song.
just liked, I kind of just like the temp. This is a weird way of saying it, but I like the temperature. If that
Hmm.
it, does that make sense? Like, yeah,
Yeah.
there's kind of, it's like the inside of a sun, kind of. Do you know what I mean? It's like this kind of. It's not even red hot. It's like a white hot, very dense kind of core of a sun.
It's
Um,
both. It's like both heat and pressure.
yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. That's exactly it. Goodbye. I liked especially also for the lyrics, um, because it's very simple. The lyrics in the song in Goodbye are actually quite simple. Um, they he doesn't say a lot. He does like there's not a lot of words. Do you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
what's there is quite in its simplicity is quite powerful and quite almost gentle, really, and quite human. Um, so yeah, negative one, Sarcastrophe, Goodbye. Nomadic, I really liked as well. Same reason as you just said, like just a song about being on the. I live on the road, so I've been on the road for 2 years now. So I love the lifestyle. So it kind of spoke to me in that way. Um, and the first one, did you say it was 14? I thought it was XIX. I don't know.
Well,
Um,
X. Well, actually, oh no, that'd be 19. That'd
it's
be 19 in
19.
Roman
Yeah, yeah,
numerals.
yeah, that's
I fucked up on that. My bad.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I like that one for a very similar reason as you said, because it opens the whole album with like such an explosion that I was like, whoa, okay, woo, this is what I'm listening to. um, so literally my actual reaction when I pressed play was whoa.
If
So
I will,
if the
I will
song can
say,
give me that
if you
much of
put
a
this album
reaction,
on, if you put this album on when you get in the car in the morning to go to work, and you hit play at the beginning of that fucking album, you're gonna be fully awake by the time you get to work, and you're gonna be fucking in heaven. It's just
it's like,
and
so whenever there's a piece of music that can literally make me go, "Oh my god," I think it deserves to be on any list. It's quite, yeah, it's quite strong.
and actually, when you were talking about sarcastrophe, I actually had to like play it for a quick second in my headphones so I could like hear it again because I kind of forgot which one that was for a hot sec. But I'm like, oh yeah, I'm like, fuck, I
Yeah,
kind of wish I put that on my list now because it was like I love the way it opens like nice and soft, then like eventually it just gets fucking heavier and
yeah,
heavier, and when they get to the chorus, like we are ill gods, like that is a good song. That
yeah.
is a good fucking song.
It's powerful. Yeah.
But Chancy, what were your top five on this one? I'm dying to hear.
Uh, well, honestly, I after having heard Ronica go on about, I mean, honestly, it's nice to actually hear somebody who listens to it further than what's just simply the sound that's being made. Even also taking into the fact that the sound of the voice in and of itself is supposed to be a separate instrument as well as the words. I wish because of that that I had brought like a death album or something like that because of the lyricism,
Mhm.
um, like the philosopher or scavenger of human sorrow. Uh,
Well, you
the
brought
lyrics,
Scavenger in the Sorrow, so you can't do that one again.
yeah.
But yeah.
Well, no, the philosopher's on a separate album. I totally could have brought
Oh, I
that
know.
one,
I know. I've actually gotten very attuned with death since you first brought them on here. So
but I it's funny listening to you talk about 19 as the explosion that uh, opens the album, and you're talking about the oh, I forgot the name of it off the top of my head. The one with where you're going on about pushing the fingers into your eyes. What is that again?
duality.
Yeah, duality. Thank you. So like you were talking about this and it being like a kind of a fresh experience in that regard. But like, I think back to the self-titled album and the almost opposite effect. Well, I shouldn't say effect because it had the same effect with from an opposite, like a opposite, like way of getting there. So instead of it erupting into this album with intensity and fire, it is literally a intro track, much like 19. But all it is like a loop of a sample where it's saying the whole thing. I think it's sick. The whole thing. I think it's sick, and it's like sped up and slowed down and sped up and slowed down, and it's drawn out, and it's like this. It's like that you were saying, like the heat and the pressure, but there's nothing really there, and then all of a sudden it's just the whole thing. I think it's sick, and then straight into track 2, which is basically what they did on track 1 with this album. So in a sense, if you weren't listening to the album very loud on the original self-titled album, that the whole thing, I think it's sick. The whole thing, I think it's sick. If you're not listening to it very loud, it's going to make you kind of lean in, and then it cuts into track 2 and it punches you right in the face. But as far as this particular album, so number 5 for me was Kill Pop.
Mm-hmm.
Number 4 was The Devil and I. I enjoy it. It's a good one, but it was, I mean, there like all basically my top 5 is kind of all like something I would put on a like list if I was to choose to listen to this album again anyway. So like number 4 was Custer. I thought that was pretty awesome. Number 3 was or no, I'm sorry. Number 4 was Devil and I. Number 3 was Custer. Number 2 was the one that kills the least, and then Sarcastrophe. The one that kills the least and Sarcastrophe were almost kind of like a unified number 1 spot because of the just that underlying reference you were talking about as well. I mean, I get what you're talking about with Manson, but the more conspiratorial sense of it all.
Hmm. I
But
mean, yeah, it
I
is.
yeah, and I definitely I really enjoyed Sarcastrophe, but like it's just kind of one of those things. Like 19, I for the first time ever, I was like, I'm not gonna do what he's gonna know. Like, he's gonna expect me to do. I wanted to, but I didn't. But I think that's also because of the fact that listening to this album made me think about that self-titled album. Because I think this album was the first album in that series in between the first 2 and this one, where it actually had that remnant. Like I said, like a dull butter knife that gets scraped, that got scraped across a rock to get that edge back to it. But yeah, like I said, it's good stuff. Fucking, it landed on a hit for me.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I mean, actually, I think it definitely is my favorite Slipknot album because even the one that came after it, I wasn't. The one that came before and the one that came after it, I wasn't like as big a fan of. They had definitely had their moments, but they definitely were not like full album amazingness. I mean, all hope is gone. Definitely is close, but I mean, honestly, you almost would think that all hope is gone was after they had a band member die. That's what you would think because that's what the whole album seems like. It's like a depressing ass album, but the video is about digging graves and shit. But we digress here. Chancy, we saved the unknown for last. So, what album did you want to bring in? Why?
So honestly, this is another one of them scenarios where it was a just on the spot recommendation, because my normal go to is to go to my like list and hit shuffle. And I was playing that video game with my group of friends that I play online with and whatever. Also, again, what's up, Jordan? But he was like,
Is that
"Yo,
the
did you hear this?"
is that the Jordan I think it is? That's I mean, I used to be
I
friends
don't.
with him on Facebook on my old account, I think, but
I don't know. I have no idea.
We'll talk
It
after.
might be. Yeah, I was gonna say
I
we
don't
can
want to say
do
right
that,
now.
but I was gonna say I don't know, dude. Maybe.
I don't want to say last names in the show, but
Yeah, I get it. But uh, he was like, "Yo, did you hear? Just like they Fit for an Autopsy put out a new album today. I think I sent you a link about it, like when they were gonna release it or whatever." I was like, "No, I haven't listened to it yet." And it just so happened to be right around the same time that uh, it was like within that period of time of like I think it was the night before I got the list of albums, and when I went to go look up uh, your album, Ronica, I should say, um, that recent search was on my search bar. So I just went to it and went to the album in particular, and I pressed play, and I just was like, the first 30 seconds of the first song, I was like, all right, it'll do. But knowing what I know now, like I said, I wish I would have brought something a bit more. And then, like, well, it's not to say that it's not the same for this one to some extent, but it's more of like an album that I knew more because it was kind of also like a first time exposure as well on my part, as much as yours. However, this is like this is my nightmare, so I know how the games are played, but uh, I mean, I really do kind of wish that I would have deferred for at least one episode to have picked a different album that I know particularly. I probably would have went with something like maybe like a Job for a Cowboy, which is a much more um, type of music that most people really can't understand because they'll actually split up words into syllables,
Mhm.
and the whole of the song itself, when you read it, is almost philosophical to some extent. And when you listen to it, you get none of it because the focus is for the vocalist at that time to make the sound of their voice the extra instrument. And then when you read the actual lyrics, you're like, fuck. Like Entombment of a Machine is probably one of my favorites, just mostly because of the R2D2 memes that came out of it from that song. There's a section at the very beginning of that song where like it's got that stereotypical metal crescendo build up thing where it's just like and then like it's got like a nice little breakdown and then like it just goes into a thing and then it's like a drawn out like and it's a scream on the actual track. So they they put the scream over, like they put R2D2 or they put the sound of the scream over R2D2 falling, and it syncs up perfectly to when it hits the floor. It starts the actual song because it ends the scream on a slap on the snare drum, and then off you fucking go. But like Fit for an Autopsy is fucking. It was a lot more than even I expected it to be, because like going off of the initial 30 seconds just to make a decision as to whether or not I was going to bring it. Uh, I was like, oh yeah, okay, I can definitely enjoy this because of I'm a huge fan of the actual genre in and of itself. Um, have been like most of my entire life, I should say, basically since I was 5. Um,
he
because
was
of
an angry
the
he was an angry child.
no, actually, I mean, I had a lot of anger, but the thing is though, is that like at the most important and formative points, metal actually kind of gave me that avenue to relate to that kind of was like the emergency release valve.
Yep, I 100% get it. Trust me.
And Fit for an Autopsy is definitely no different than that. Like, I can definitely understand where it would resonate with a lot of newer listeners, because I'm also now that old guy that came up on the this, that, and the other, that's listening to all the this, that, and the other coming out, and you're kind of trying to not to be like oh yeah, I remember raining blood, and but like the thing I enjoyed the most about this was how it it manages to make itself outstanding, to whereas at the same time if you were to play it next to any other song, it would almost blend together. Yet it's still outstanding in its own way, whether it's the lyrics of a specific song or the just like the basic time changes. It's like that's one of my more favorite things about heavy metal, especially on this album, is like there are time changes on this that are completely unexpected and exciting at the same time. But anyway, that's enough of my ranting about the genre. It's just really interesting to go from, like, having heard you say that you don't actually listen to the genre at all, but we're excited to have done so at the beginning before we started, and then elaborating as to why. It's like, wow, that's fucking awesome, because I've honestly wished that I'd have been able to have a conversation with somebody for them to walk away with that point you brought to the table.
Yeah.
You made old Graybeard happy. You made old Graybeard happy. What a day. But Ronica, what did you think of Fit for an Autopsy?
Again, it was because again, it's really something I never heard of. I never heard of them before. I'd heard of Slipknot, obviously, but I'd never ever even, not for a second, heard of Fit for an Autopsy before. So I came into it, and I listened to the Slipknot one first. So I was like, okay, cool. I have experienced this genre. Let's see what the other album is, and then it's a similar kind of genre. So I was like, okay, I'm in this now. I thought the vocal quality. I don't know who the singer is. I don't know the name. But the vocal quality was striking. Like, Corey Taylor is a fantastic vocalist. He all metal singers are. You can put them up against any other performer. Their vocal strength, just physically, the actual strength that your vocal cords need to go through. All of metal musicians are absolute musical geniuses. You have to be. The genre requires it. It is such a technically difficult thing to make this type of music. My fingers would break trying to attempt even half of this shit, right? 99.9% of people's voices would disintegrate, like the throats would disintegrate and explode if they tried any of this shit.
I've had it happen after concerts, honestly.
Exactly, right? It's impossible for a normal human being to sustain this.
Trying to sing along with Danny Filth
They're
at a Pale
gods.
Filth concert will make your fucking throat bleed.
They're actual, like, the actual just physical, the physical aspect, and the musical proficiency, right? Just like the musical actual technical proficiency that goes into producing music like this is incredible. And I thought that was very, very strong. I felt it was a very technically strong, musically strong album. It felt like you're in the hands of professionals listening to it. You feel like they know their shit. So that's what I found really interesting. I found the lyrical quality of the singer quite striking. It's a really strong voice. So that's kind of what jumped out at me first. And then, as I did with the other album, I listened to the lyrics. And actually I took down a note here about it, because I actually, while I was listening to it, I was like, yeah. So the Savior of None, that really, the lyrics on that, and I'm gonna do the same thing again that I did before, looking up the lyrics and actually just reading some of the lyrics, because I was listening to it and I was like, okay, because sometimes it's not super easy to like follow along. So I was like, I'm just gonna look this up. And there's a verse in here, um crush you into millions of pieces, your kingdom collapse, your hope becomes your weakness. Our dust and destruction have sown the seeds of sickness. It's buried deep inside the curse of ever fall, a black halo torn from the sky, savior of none, ashes of all. Like, just the imagery, right? If you just so I'm a filmmaker, I'm a screenwriter. For me, visual storytelling is hugely important. So if you just sit there and just allow yourself to experience the imagery, um of, you know, a black halo torn from the sky, um that's a really they're really most of those lyrics that I listen to on this album are really powerful, are visually powerful. Um so that's kind of what I felt. And like I said, I don't know this band. I know nothing about them. Um but their technical ability, and the kind of more visual storytelling, that they employed with their lyrics, um that was really Weaker Wolves was another one that was quite like viscerally visual, where it was an actual, like,
Mm-hmm.
the storytelling on that song
Fuck yeah.
it's you're going on a journey here on that song. There's storytelling going on, there's visual imagery going on, um that I found quite like that was really powerful. I you know, I enjoyed that a lot. um so yeah, that's my opinion.
Well,
This has rapidly become my favorite episode.
Oh,
I, I was waiting. I was honestly waiting for him to say that because
Yeah, for real.
I,
Like,
I could honestly, he may just be a giant red eyeball, bleeding asshole, whatever you want to call it. But I mean, I could honestly like kind of like sense him like having a big ass smile on his face this whole time behind the
oh.
fucking camera. But uh, see,
Ah,
yeah,
there's
there
your
it is.
smile. There you go. That's a big smile.
oh, just a shit-eating grin. I mean, we've done what do we at 100, what, 105 at this point now for like
Somewhere around
album
there.
shows somewhere in the avenue of, and I've literally been making basically every point you have made so far tonight in a desperate effort to try and explain to people who aren't normally into the genre why I love this genre so goddamn much. And
It's
like,
yeah,
go ahead.
it's a good like I keep kind of saying, metal music is so underestimated, because people think it's just noise. It's not noise. It's not noise. It's noisy, but it's not noise. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not,
Oh, absolutely.
even as somebody, I don't listen to it. It's really not something that I would seek out. But the appreciation, and what I really want to say, and since both of you kind of put forward metal albums, what I absolutely 100% want to say is the culture surrounding metal music is fucking amazing. There is no culture, there's no and I get very passionate about this, and I actually really, I'm going to go on a rant here. There is no musical culture that is as wholesome and as gentle and as caring. I mean, punk probably is in the same category. And as just a love fucking fest. Um, you will never be more safe. There is no place on this planet where you will be more safe than at a metal gig. There's just nowhere. If you want to feel like you're surrounded by the most gentle and most beautiful human beings on the entire planet, you go and you get yourself into a metal like show, because you will be held like as if you're being held by 5 billion beautiful, uh, you know, teddy bears made out of love. So that's another thing that even if I don't listen to the music, to appreciate the genre and the culture that surrounds the genre, oh my God, we should all appreciate it like a billion times more than we do. Because
100%.
it's gorgeous. It's fucking, I literally have never felt more safe than when I was at like a metal gig, even if it's like a tiny little local band somewhere. You
Oh
are
yeah.
held and you're safe and you are in the best company in the world.
I
Um,
was
so
I felt the same way when I went to my first show and saw somebody fall down in the pit because everybody just stops.
Yeah,
lift you up, picks you
exactly.
straight back up. Yeah,
Took the words on my fucking mouth, Chancy. But yeah, it's funny because I kind of feel the same way about like the Juggalo community when you go to like a Juggalo concert. I mean, like yeah, the two communities intersect a lot because it's most Juggalos are metal fans too. But I mean, it's the same thing. Like you just
yeah,
I literally got hugged by more strangers in my life than anywhere else at a Juggalo concert slash metal
right?
concert. So it's just it's the way it is. Like you just you have people you never met in your life come up to you and like hugging you and being like, "What up, fam?" And it's just like you don't expect it. Like that's it. Don't judge a book by its cover, folks. That's metal fans in a fucking heartbeat because they may look like the scariest motherfuckers on the planet, but they will fucking trust me.
Help
If
you. Yeah,
if a guy is ever if a man is ever treating a woman wrong at a metal concert, that man's lucky if he's walking out
that
of
man's
that
not.
concert.
If
Like
I
it's
had
just
if I had the choice between like bankers or finance bros and a couple of very hairy men with like patches on their jackets, you bet your ass who I feel safer with. It's
mhm.
gonna be the hairy bearded men who bang their heads like it a
Aw.
million times, a million times, a million fucking times. So it's like it's such a it is in kind of in polite society. It is such a kind of misunderstood subculture that I feel really very strongly about, having grown up in in the Austrian countryside where this was the genre. So yeah, it that's just, but that's not about this specific album. It's more about the genre in general. But the specific album, definitely, like I said, lyrically very strong, but also technically very beautifully executed.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Chancy, we've been seen, man.
Right.
But uh, I I will say, as far as Fit for an Autopsy goes, I never thought I heard of them, but for the last couple hours, like that name's been like ringing in the back of my head. Like I know I've heard the name before. I make a lot of fucking brackets for our show, so I don't know if it's from that or if it's because I just came across them on concert like list when I was looking at different concerts I wanted to go to in the past. But I mean, I know they're definitely not new to the scene. They've been around for a while. But I this album I didn't know what to expect because Chancy brings a lot of his metal albums on this show, and it's a love hate thing because either I'm gonna love them or I'm gonna hate them, and I never know what it is till I listen to the album. Well, most times. Sometimes I know before I even fucking listen because I know the band. But this band though, I honestly they lyrically surprised the fuck out of me. I looked at the lyrics for the first song, and then I'm like, oh, I don't even need to. I can fucking understand what the hell they're saying. Actually, it's amazing. Such a complete difference from most of Chance's music. So they wanted that they didn't have that gutturalness where you can't understand a fucking thing they're saying. Like I understand 99% of the words, so I had no problem following along with the songs. The only complaint I have about the album is that the first half is a lot better than the second half. That I will say. The first half of the album impressed the fuck out of me. The second half kind of dwindled off and got very lackluster compared to the first half, which I don't know why bands do this. Metal bands do this all the fucking time, where the first half of the album is fucking golden, and the second half is just like they gave up and they just like, oh, we need filler content. Like that's just the way it goes with a lot of metal bands, and I can't explain it.
I
But
mean, I can't necessarily explain it from personal experience, but Well, not necessarily. I've never like recorded a full album, but I've definitely worked on music with musicians and stuff. It's kind of like, especially with metal, like, and they're not always recorded in order or whatever, but you can always tell which ones, were the first ones that got created. Because, like you said, yeah, it starts off good and it'll taper out, but it's also kind of like you go in with a full tank of gas, just fucking escaping Earth's velocity with intensity and heat and fire, and off you fucking go. But then you basically start to run out of fucking gas, and you just got to get across the finish line. And
I
it's like
I mean,
it's a or I shouldn't say a dichotomy, but it is kind of, but it's more of a like art. Like, do you sacrifice the quality or do you
Mm.
go with quantity?
I would say don't sacrifice the quality. Fucking put out a fucking 6-track album if it's gonna be all gold.
Well, I mean,
Or just
not.
maybe take your
Go ahead.
time, or just maybe kind of take your time, and leave more time in between albums. That might be the
I mean,
solution.
you can, but there's also, as System of a Down will tell you, there are record labels that want you to put out a certain amount of albums in a
Yeah,
certain amount of years, and
yeah.
you
Yeah.
you kind of
You're
just
just
push
kind of
albums out to get out of that deal faster than you need to. But I mean,
yeah,
those albums are still fucking amazing. As much as Chance may disagree with me, those albums are still fucking amazing.
Oh
But
yeah.
you push
No.
them out.
No.
I am swear to God, I'm gonna bring Hypnotize and Memorize on this fucking show eventually, just to fucking piss you
That's
off.
fine. The day you do is the day I bring Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness. Because if you're gonna double album, I'm gonna fucking double album, and you better
Oh
make sure
no,
there's not a guest, because they're gonna hate their fucking life.
it's not gonna be double album. They are separate albums. They'll be on separate shows, but they were released they were released 6 months separately, so they're definitely separate albums. Uh but yeah, I enjoyed Fit for an Autopsy. It was I definitely am glad I had headphones on because I tried listening to them in the car afterwards, and it wasn't a easy experience like it was with headphones, but I enjoyed the fuck out of it. So, and I'll get more to that in this. I'll get more to the lyrics and what I like about them in the fucking top 5. But Chancy, since it's your album, and this Mr. Mom of the Week is getting fucking tired, what are your top 5?
So for me, honestly, like I very much so wanted to just put it all in there. Uh,
Giggity.
for real. Like it was so difficult for me to narrow this down. I was just like, fuck it. And I basically went off a gut reaction from the ones that I like specifically was like, oh yeah, because I do like a tally marker, like all like, T1, T4, T7. Number 5 for me was Spoils of the Horde. I don't know. It was just kind of
mm,
it was a fun ride. Uh, number 4 was Red Horizon.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know. For some reason, it almost just kind of it felt more like Event Horizon than Red Horizon, and I love that movie. So it was just kind of like like staring into the abyss. Number 3 for me was actually Lower Purpose.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
I mean, it was. I like my number 2 and my number 1 are really the kind of the graspers, and that's like, my number 1 you already actually mentioned, Veronica. Uh,
Mm.
Number 2 though was Hostage.
Yeah.
For
Mm.
me, like it was the combination of how like it's like set and setting, but it's also, but for me it's like, word and sound. Some songs mean more, like for
Mm.
number 1 was Savior of All, Ashes of None, specifically because of the lyrics. To whereas
Mm-hmm.
Hostage was it came in as a close second because of how the sound of the words went with the tune. And
Mhm.
it's kind of the same thing as well with Red Horizon. Uh, that's kind of one of those things. Like, I'm very critical when it comes to like listening to new metal albums, because of the fact of like, I don't know. For me, it's like I always made the argument that the blues and metal were the closest related genres to classical. And
Yeah.
if they brought like, Bach or Beethoven or,
Yes.
Chopin or even Paganini, oh my God, I couldn't even imagine. They
Vivaldi.
like oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. The most likely types of music that they would make is
Yeah.
either EDM, like techno,
Yeah.
or metal.
Yeah.
And a fun thing is one of the reasons why I always kind of felt this way in the first place was when they figured out that the way we play Mozart is slower than it was initially intended to be played. So listening to Mozart at like a half speed faster to get, or actually it's more like a quarter speed or whatever. But when you listen to it faster and you hear it, it sounds so much more like a guitar riff on some metal album. And then that really was where I kind of branched out to investigate and, like, oh, hey, yeah, that part from the Fifth Symphony, that's okay, that's Chuggy on a guitar.
Mhm.
Or, the beginning to Fur Elise is almost a beautiful guitar solo bridge or an interlude even.
Mhm.
And it's just like, shit, that's actually fucking legit. At first I thought it was just a crazy, oh, this because I just like these three genres in particular.
Yeah.
And then you go back and you listen to like the blues, like especially the Mississippi Delta blues. Like
Mm.
the strings are the most of the time aren't even of the same tunage. Like it's almost as if it's like Tony Iommi, but they have all five fingers, but they still have all these different strings of different lengths, or I'm sorry, of different thicknesses, or of different gauges, I should say,
Yeah.
and different types of strings, and they still make this fucking music.
And
And it, yes,
sorry, it's just so technically
yes,
because to play classical music and to play metal music and to play blues music really really well, you have to be a musical genius. You have to be an actual musical genius. You have to be so talented and so capable. I mean, you can slap together a pop song pretty easily. And I don't dislike, I'm not gonna knock pop music. It exists and it's fine and it exists and it should exist. But you can slap that together pretty easily. But like the technical proficiency you need to create good blues music, to create good classical music, to create good metal music, that's on a different fucking level. Like it's
Hmm.
you have to actually really understand musical theory. You have to understand your instrument. You have to understand the boundaries of what's humanly possible. Um what's musically possible, what's technically possible. And yeah, I would put it on the same. I would agree with you there, Chancy. I would put it on the same level. And it should be just as celebrated. Like it should be the same kind of level of celebration of musical genius, in my opinion.
And I mean, and that's the difference. Any beautiful woman who has heartbreak in her past could be Taylor Swift, in my opinion. Because I mean, don't get me wrong, I got some guilty pleasure Taylor Swift songs I like, but it's just you. Not anybody could go out there and be a metal singer. Not anybody could go out there. And trust me, there are people who have tried and failed horribly at being metal singers. I went to high school with some of them, and they fucking failed horribly. They thought they were the best thing in the world until they actually started playing, and then they realized they were getting booed. But it's it's a whole nother level. I mean, I am not a fan of the blues for most part because it's just the blues. I mean, yeah, there's some that I like, but don't bring no fucking Sunhouse in this shit again, Chancy. I swear to God. But it's just
dark
there's
was
certain
the
things that
night, cold was the ground.
hey, we're not talking about cracking open a cold one here. But what were your top five, Veronica? For
Um, so my top one was the one I already talked about, Savior of None, Ashes of All. I think, yeah, again, just because of the lyrics. The lyrics were so visually interesting. Again, with the visual storytelling that goes on, I just thought the imagery was very powerful. Weaker Wolves was another one that I really found
Yeah.
like just
Fuck
interesting.
yes.
Like really just an interesting construction. Um, with regards to the poetry, with regards to kind of the construction of the song. Lust for the Severed Head was also interesting. It kind of it I kind of I listened to it, and then I looked at the title of the song, and then there's this like really, and I'm outing myself as a pervert here, but there's this really old, like, horrendous story about um in the French Revolution, when uh obviously the guillotine was being used all the time, and there was so many severed heads, and heads remain conscious after, like, for a good few seconds and almost a minute after you cut them off. And
Yep.
as a teenager and as a kid, I was like absolutely fascinated with the idea of, like, remaining alive after you've been, like, decapitated. Um, so my mind kind of wandered there. I was like, oh, I remember being fascinated by the concept, and there was like this horror story that I always kind of came back to, and that I was really interested in as a teenager, that centered around, like, the last few seconds of a head's consciousness after it became cut off. So my mind wandered there. So I was like, yeah, it's just an interesting one. Um, Lower Purpose and Lurch were my other two. I don't know how I would rank them, but those two were my other two. Just because I kind of I I I don't really have a reason for those two. I just kind of enjoyed them more than maybe the rest of them. But yeah, as a whole, I didn't really feel as much of a quality drop off as you were talking about, Jeremy. But yeah, no, like I said, it's a good example um of the genre.
Oh, I felt the quality drop off like most men complain about in their late marriage,
Mm.
but I
Christ on a
digress.
cracker.
But I digress. I mean, I did have one honorable mention for this album, I will say, and that was Hostage. Partly because with Chancy's albums, I tend to throw the first song on the list always, just because I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna get a top 5 out of this. But once again, I was truly mistaken because I was able to find top 5 without issue. My number 5 was Savior of None, Ashes of All, because the guitar and drums were fucking incredible on it. And I guess I didn't really hear the lyrics as much as I should have. I mean, I was at work, so I was kind of like pausing in the middle of the song to answer my phone and shit when it rang. So that kind of fucks with it sometimes. But when you read that lyric piece, the erotica from that song, I fucking was like, oh yeah, I remember that lyrics now. That was pretty fucking. I didn't think about it that way, but it's pretty fucking incredible. My number 4 was, and this is actually one of the only songs in the second half of the album I liked. But my number 4 was Lower Purpose because I love the fucking line, I am the product of my environment.
Yeah.
Which has been my excuse for most of the things that people complain about me for my whole life. So I'm the product of my fucking environment. Get over it. My number 3 was Spoils of the Horde because of the simple 2 words they kept saying, exterminate mankind, which in my mind is always a good idea. But we ruin this planet. Exterminate us. But my number 2 was Red Horizon because of the simple fucking, I mean, the guitar is amazing, but the simple fucking line, the bodies burn so bright that God closed his eyes. I
Mm.
cannot think of a more metal fucking line than that. And this is the point where Kevin Smith will go, but my number 1 was 150% Weaker Wolves because
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
guitar was sick as fuck. And the whole theme behind the song I fucking love because I've always been about the strong will survive, and I mean the whole idea of it came to my mind the whole idea of the Native American like theory of the two wolves inside you, and the weaker wolf doesn't survive, so the stronger wolf prevails. And plus anything to do with fucking wolves, I'm down for. I mean, honestly, hearing that song, I almost wish I brought the last Demon and Wizards album I didn't bring on yet on this fucking show, just because of a song on it called Wolves of the Winter. But it's the whole album. I enjoyed the album overall. Just the first half of it was fucking incredible. Second half, kind of got lackluster. But yeah, I can't complain. It was a good album, and Chancy's brought worse. So by fucking far, Sunhouse. But
How dare you?
I dare. I fucking dare, motherfucker. But
You know, it's funny. You say I've brought worse, but my worst is yet to come.
now you sound like my wife.
I mean,
But
honestly, literally, like, I speak the truth, but with every word, thousands die. That's the kind of shit that comes out when you like listen to the nuclear option. I'm telling you.
will you just? I'm gonna laugh my ass off, but actually enjoy the fuck out of your nuclear option. And you're just like, what the fuck?
If you enjoy my nuclear option, you will prove only that you are truly a fucking psychopath. I couldn't make it through this album, okay? I couldn't do this.
Well, one, tell me something I don't already know, and two,
Yeah.
folks, we have brought you these albums thrice yet again, and not our longest episode, but it's up there, and we hope you all enjoy the. Well, I guess us romancing the metal in a way, but Monica, if they want to find you or any of your work or anything you do, where can they find you?
And they can find me on my website, ronicamerrill.com. If somebody likes poetry, all of my poetry collections are available on Amazon. And the work that I do mainly in my real life, the work that I do is mainly activism for people who have gone through abuse and trauma. So that's kind of my real life job. And then obviously I'm a screenwriter as well, and I help people out with film scripts that they want to work on. So yeah, but I'm easily Googleable. My name is pretty unique. So if you Google my name, you'll find me pretty easily. So yeah, that's how to find me. That's how to get in touch. And please do get in touch. I'm always happy to chat and talk.
And folks, you don't even have to fucking use Google, which you shouldn't because the Chinese are watching you. But her website will, of course, be in the description of the podcast, as always. So make sure to click and go and check out her work, because who doesn't love a good fucking poet? Shit. I wouldn't be as good at my intros if I didn't fucking like poetry. So come on now.
Poetry's important.
And I've written poetry in my own way, but it ain't good enough to publish, and I might get it fucking on the FBI watch list if I do publish something there. Because I wrote a lot in college, and I was not exactly in the best headspace. But Chancy, where can they find you besides possibly with your girl tonight? Because I think you're in such a good mood that she's gonna be happy tonight.
So Instagram and TikTok, it's the Red Eye Roundtable. On X, it's Red Eye Table. And on Facebook, everybody knows the drill. That's my first name. You can find me using only that. If it hasn't been on the show before, I will bring your album, even if I hate it. But I will tell you that I hate it.
Yes, Chancy. Well, actually, the scavenger hunt has brought some good things. I still am happy. I still am very pleased whenever a Motionless in White song off that album comes on my fucking random list. So
Nice.
so thank you, random person who brought that. But
Thomas.
Tomas, thank you. But you can find both your musers on Facebook as the Uncensored, Unapologetic, and Untamed Podcast Collective, YouTube. You can also find us on XXBaby and the Gram as that Juggalo Bastard. You can find us on TikTok as that Juggalo Bastard Podcast. And of course, you can find us on YouTube as Manalka Music Musings, which is the only place where you can see every episode we've ever done. Even the two in the beginning when it was just me and Chancy talking to each other like a bunch of morons. So be sure to actually those were some good, our solo episodes were some good shit back in the day. But
Yeah.
and we're also proud members of the Parapost Network and the Blind Knowledge Network. Because all knowledge was blind. Yeah, I don't even got a fucking outro for that one. So all
I
knowledge
was
is
gonna
blind.
say, oh shit. Oh shit. Yeah. You fucking
well, for
you fucking blew your load on the intro and now you fucked up the outro.
I usually have both, folks, but I am fucking tired as hell. Because for those of you who don't know, your main co-host here, who does all the talk, most of the talking, had a daughter born this past weekend and has been playing Mr. Mom to his two other kids all week while he's in the hospital. So I'm tired of shit, especially after making your own pizza night. So yeah, I'm tired of shit. So we will not be recording next week, even though that's gonna be way before this episode is released. But we will not be recording next week, but we'll be back with another guest at the end of November, I believe. Come back soon, folks, and see your musers. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you so much, you guys.